environment for better health.
So that was the kind of warm-up to the session itself. Some house rules. The session is recorded. At the end, there will be a wonderful QR code coming on the screen pertaining as a survey to the session that you will observe and watch now. And with no further ado, thinking about collaboration, cooperation, and governments and what the role is, I would like to introduce and go around to our panelists. Each panelist will introduce themselves and talk about their insights of the topic. And then we're going to open up for reactions, comments, feed forward, I call it, because we want to have this interactive. So I will start with Myra.
Yeah. So nice to meet you all. Thank you for joining us here today. So Myra Souza, I'm a board member of OWIT Brussels chapter, but I'm here today actually to speak on behalf of the company that I work for, which is called International Flavors and Fragrance, to go a little bit beyond what was the original titles in our sessions on governments. Actually, I will share some projects from the private sector perspective as well, to promote women's economic empowerment and beyond that. So shall I continue?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. So we are going to have each one of the speakers about 5 minutes or so, and then we're going to open up.
Okay. So IFF, as the way we call it, is a multinational present in different countries. I'm not going to spend much time introducing and talking about the company, but more what it matters, the projects that have been developed throughout the past years, which always had a pillar in women economic empowerment. So there has been projects in Haiti, but I'd like just to highlight two of them. That was the most recent ones during 2019 throughout 2022. So one of them is a project in Indonesia, in patchouli. So patchouli is one of these ingredients used for fragrance, because the company deals with fragrance, where we have those big luxurious house, for the fragrance, for the scent. So patchouli is working in many different applications. So in Indonesia, the project was developed with 39 different villages, with over 500 different farmers, and then 1/3 of those was participation from women. Because even though you would say 100%, that's the reality, you're not there yet, but at least it was a focal point of 1/3 of them that they were women. The project was that they would work in agroforestry, so improve their methodology, how to plant, how to cultivate. So different methodology, whether you mix with the plantation, whether you create borders to improve the quality as well. Teaching them about the different species of the trees, and also focusing on the risks to protect the biodiversity loss. Teaching them on water management as well, on recyclability, how they could better utilize as well their resources. Women, to a certain extent, the program actually turned out to be more successful for them on the communities with home gardening. So that was giving them the power as well, giving them a work, a job, a function, improving the patchouli that they were producing. I think there were over 40,000 different trees that have been planted during that time. And as of 2021, they became independent, running this project by themselves. So in terms of women, we really saw the increase in their economic participation. And then we also had like third-party auditors to focus on the different criteria in terms of sustainability, how well were they doing compared to the initial, at the beginning of the project. So this is one of them, and I'm happy to share any additional details, not to spend much time. The second product I'd like to highlight is vanilla from Madagascar. Once again, an ingredient that is used for food, but also scent, aroma. The project was together with Unilever as well, and it was in a much bigger scope. The pillar of women economic empowerment was there as well, but it was really building schools as well for children. so the mothers could also then step up from home and then go to work. So they also start working, for example, in the restaurant of the school that was built so their kids could study. Once again, helping improving their product, the methodology that they were producing, the vanilla, helping with the plantation of the trees again. And once again, I think it was only 20,000 trees at the beginning, but throughout the project, this grew to 200,000 trees that are being implanted. Also, I think around 2,000 hectares of reforestation as well, with the same concept that as I mentioned before, with the wastewater management, trying to also become diversify, not only then focus on the vanilla, but then diversifying in other plantations as well. The biodiversity aspect also there, teaching them what is at the risk, that you should watch out for the biodiversity loss. Teaching them finance literacy, helping them with mobile payment access, providing as well microcredit for those smallest farmers. So it was really like a project that was much broader, had much more impact actually on the community. Is still, I think, closed 2022 as well. And once again, happy to share any additional details because it's a really beautiful project. There are 2 other projects right now that are in evaluation, once again, to start, focus in different countries, to help those communities, and once again, always with the pillar focusing women empowerment, to help as well to improve their lives and provide them with some economic resources for themselves. But what I wanted to bring this year, because when we first talked about the panel, it was like about the governments, but I think only looking at the governments is not the only solution. So there is also other, let's say, source, so the private sector as well. Of course, the company that I work for is buying patchouli, is buying vanilla, but is helping as well then to improve their production and going beyond only from the commercial focus and helping those communities. So the point was more about that. There are other sources that only just look into governments or government subsidies, but also partnerships with the private sector to provide a better resource to those communities as well. So I'll stop here. Maybe I'm over my 5 minutes.
No, it's fine. We've got still time, but this is a great example how corporations, and in the beginning, WTO, we had ITC, right? The whole topic was about how we bring back again corporations to our multilateral trade dynamics. Because it's not only government, it's not only public sector. You're absolutely spot on, Myra. There is a huge responsibility on each sector. And we shall not even distinguish between them anymore. We are working together. Collaboration is key. This is what we need to do. We are humans. And economic empowerment for women is absolutely amazing. Entrepreneurship for women, amazing. And what your company is doing, I've got some questions already for you, but I put them on my little pad here, and I will continue with the next panel list, which is Safia.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Safa Genoun. I am actually based here in the UAE. I'm an entrepreneur and founder of a boutique firm called The Tax Point. So we might be wondering what is the link between tax and sustainability. In fact, we tend to see finance and tax functions as support functions to businesses, to governments, etc. But it doesn't stop at that. I think we need to see tax more as an enabler. Obviously, it makes a difference in jurisdictions for investors, be it startups or larger corporations, to know that there exists a tax system in place that is fair, that provides them with juridical security for them to start their business. So this was one of the main drivers that actually pushed me to leave the corporate, large and big corporate world, to founding my own startup here in the UAE, to be able to address the community of startups, especially those led by women, and also contribute to driving the tax agenda into the sustainability arena. Now we might be wondering why the UAE and not somewhere else. Obviously, I came from Europe before being here in the UAE, and I noticed a bit of a difference in terms of women-led businesses, in terms of women agenda in the business and so on. And I realized that there is a lot to do, and that I could actually share my insights, expertise, and knowledge, and encourage more women to start their businesses by supporting them, from the tax and finance side. The UAE offers a very good ecosystem for startups. There are today a lot of initiatives for women to start their businesses in terms of funding, in terms of tech-enabled solutions, and also in terms of being part of groups, women-led groups, to discuss, share ideas, and help each other. So very grateful for the journey so far in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of what I can contribute to this society. On the other side of things, I'm also an artist, and we will also be speaking today on how art can contribute to creating more awareness with universal language and reaching a larger audience through, encouraging artistic and cultural initiatives, not only in the UAE but across the world, and encouraging artists to speak up their thoughts about how we can contribute to the climate change agenda and creating more sustainability around us. So that's it for me.
Safi, so many hats she has got on. This is really impressive, my goodness. And I think that's a good point as well for women-led businesses. Tax and finance is a huge barrier for women even to start their entrepreneurship journey. Why is that? We shy away from this. Finance, oh my God, money, tax, regulations. It is a horrendous big elephant for us. And it's great to see such role models, and that a woman can actually speak the language of a woman, which is important. Not that we are excluding man here. We love to work together with man. Absolutely very important. I acknowledge that. And we won't like, but it's a different language sometimes. So it's easier for us to open up. So Safa, you do a great job. We are really proud of you. Good role model, and specifically as well the artist art. So we're going to talk about the artist aspect later on. And here, with no further ado, we move over, and you see there is a diverse panel. I mean, it's absolutely from all over the place. Alexander Lehmann, Environmental Law Commission of the Brazilian Bar, University of Caxias do Sul.
That's a tough one.
It is. So, Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be here today and join this wonderful panel on for such a meaningful discussion. As Safai, I also wear a couple of different hats. I am actually simultaneously in private practice, in policy and academia. So I am a climate lawyer, first and foremost. I am qualified in Brazil and New York and have been a climate lawyer for the past 20 years or so. I am president of the Environmental Law Commission of the Brazilian Bar Association. I am a law professor teaching ESG, environmental, social, and governance, and climate law in PhD and LLM programs in my home country of Brazil. And last and perhaps not least, considering the theme of today's discussion, I'm also head of ESG at the 30% Club Brazil chapter. So I don't know if you're familiar with the 30% Club, but this is an initiative aimed at fostering diversity and inclusion, particularly gender diversity, and the boards of Fortune 100 companies and their equivalent in each country where the initiative is present. So one of the things we've been trying to do with the ESG committee in the 30% Club in Brazil is to push companies, the Brazilian listed companies, to try and avoid groupthink by having more climate savvy and ESG savvy women join their boards. So having said that, today I wanted to very briefly get across 4 points, 4 more general points, just to try and and reflect on how three agendas, the three relevant agendas today connect, namely the climate agenda, the trade agenda, and the gender agenda. So the very first topic that I wanted to get across today is the fact that women, particularly women in developing countries, suffer disproportionately from the impacts of climate change. So there are a multitude of data in this regard. So we have 70% of the 1.3 billion people living in conditions of poverty are actually women. So in urban areas, 40% of households are headed by women. And of course, women also represent a high percentage of poor communities that are highly dependent on local natural resources. So besides that, women also have limited access to environmental goods and services. Their decision-making possibilities are sometimes also limited. And finally, their mobility is also sometimes impaired for cultural reasons or socioeconomic reasons, meaning that women are typically more prone to suffer from the effects of climate change. So the second point that I wanted to get across today is the fact that women are often tasked with managing natural resources and securing food and water for their families, and also women play a relevant role in building community resilience. So strengthening women's capacity to adapt to climate change is not only a matter of justice, but also a strategic investment for the resilience of communities. The third point that I wanted to get across, and this is more related to the trade agenda, is the fact there are very interesting studies that document gender-specific labor market responses to an increasing trade. And there's a study from Brazil from 2022, which actually identifies that women experience the largest gains to an increase, resulting from an increase in trade. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight and to pinpoint from that study is the fact that exports have been found to have a positive association with wage growth, and the gains from the particular data set that was analyzed in Brazil found that there was employment reallocation for women to the formal sector, and then a decrease in occupation segregation, and almost double the gains in labor, formal employment and wages in Brazil, resulting from an increase in trade. And finally, the last point that I wanted to get across, which is also related to trade and sustainability, is the fact that recent free trade agreements include an important sustainability dimension. And this is something that, of course, also creates winners and losers. And I think the challenge is to design and implement policy changes that connect the three agendas, the climate agenda, the gender agenda, and the sustainability and climate agenda, so that can actually reinforce positively one another.
Was there another point, or Alessandra?
No,
Okay.
no.
Was there another point?
Okay, that's a thank you. And I forgot to mention something as well.
Yes.
I'm also, we were planning on discussing art today.
Yes.
So there's something that I always like to, that I also like. I like to expose my students to the idea that climate is something that can also be, we can appeal to people's emotions, so that to get them engaged meaningfully in climate and environmental related issues. And I'm also a singer, rock singer, actually. And I realized that one of the last songs that I wrote was not intentionally. It ended up being a song about climate change. So perhaps we can have a little.
We might
further
listen if we,
discussion
yeah,
on this
exactly,
later.
on lyrics maybe, we shall see. So we've got creative minds combined with serious, like law, like tax. I think this is hilarious, it's really great. It's a beautiful combination as well to manage stress and overwhelm. And I really pledge that everyone shall take care of themselves. It's great to be here, but we are very important. I'm deviating sometimes from topics. So let's go back again to our topic, all right. And I would allude to it later on as well, specifically. But last but not least, to my right, I've got Reshma. Reshma, go ahead.
Thanks, Julia, and thanks for those amazing insights, guys. Really, insightful and brings into point the climate and the gender agenda together. So I'm Reshma Sharma. I'm a director here with Deloitte Middle East. I'm also the climate and sustainability leader for Deloitte Middle East Tax Services. And just going back to Safaye's point, the finance and tax function is extremely crucial for bringing together and ensuring that businesses are allowed and can have viable operating models given the various, thronging up of green taxes, green incentives across the world. So this is my current role. However, for my day job as well, I am a global trade and indirect taxation advisor focusing on customs and environmental taxes. I've been doing this for over 17 years now. I started my career in EY in London in indirect taxation, and then moved here to the region about 4 years ago, or 4.5 actually, just before COVID. So that's me in a minute. But today, when Julia and the rest of us connected, discussing women-led solutions in business, I thought to bring together all of these insights, maybe we spend a few minutes just talking about a very exciting business which has worked very well since 2017. So I'll discuss, give you a brief on a case study that I've been following, and it's very exciting. But before I delve into that, I mean, why the talk about women-focused initiatives, So when I think about it and take a step back, so sustainability is, of course, means solutions that require innovation. So therefore, by ensuring inclusion of the entire population, whether it's at a micro or a macro level, is extremely important. So only inclusion can breed innovation, and innovation can breed sustainability, and therefore ensuring gender diversity as part of our inclusion measures will only enable sustainable solutions, whether it's in climate-led solutions, whether it's in business. And often, I mean, if I draw a little chart, I can say sustainability thrives on innovation, innovation thrives from inclusion, and of course, a big aspect of inclusion is, of course, gender diversity. So that's how I was putting it together. But okay, let's fall back. I know we've discussed a few principles, insights, but a case study. So I'll talk a few minutes about Novaloop. So Novaloop was a business. It's a sustainability venture startup. It was founded by Miranda Wong, Canadian by citizenship, and she was one of those students who had studied environmental studies in her college and was extremely inspired by various school trips and found green initiatives and particularly around plastic degradation. She was very passionate about, and over the years she found another partner, and Jeanette and Miranda went through various hoops, I guess. And if you're interested, look up Novaloop. So it's Novoloop, and they started this venture company backed up by funding. They managed to raise about $25 million over the last few years. Essentially, what they do, very simply put, they use polyethylene scrap, which is our plastic bag, which is not so good. We all know that. And they use a procedure called, sorry, I'm not so hot on science anymore. I used to be a very good science student, but I had to write it down. ATOD technology, which is accelerated thermal oxidative decomposition technology, which essentially enables polyethylene or plastic bag scrap to produce high performance materials that rival virgin plastic. Essentially, what they have also trademarked their technology called life cycling plastic, essentially to use plastic trash or garbage to then convert it into materials which can be used in trainers or sneakers, as we popularly known as. And it's a very exciting technology. In January 2024, which was just a month before last, they have announced, so they have got a further funding where they are actually setting up a production facility in India and Surat in the west coast of India, where they will be manufacturing this large scale and intending to secure suppliers, large footwear companies. So I thought this was an extremely exciting case, and when I was reading it, I felt very empowered. Okay, you know, at the end of the day, I know sustainability, inclusion, all of this has to translate into profits for businesses, and only then can we see real change. And we are already seeing real change, and I thought this was a very powerful example. So I'll pause there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Reshma, for a real business case, and also linking why we are here together about inclusion, innovation, creative minds, and how we can have the women lens as well on anything else. And that's what organization Women International Trade's vision is, to act as an advisory board for any trade policies that are created, drafted in any country, in any industry, to have a women's lens. We are very well represented in almost every country, and I think that will make such a big difference. And that's why we are here today, to put a women's lens as well on the discussion of sustainability and climate change, and how women contribute to the success of creating a better world. Because we are ultimately the ones who are more thinking ahead, making sure, safeguarding and protecting. And that's in our nature, which is great. We are complementing each other, and this is how it should be. Apart from that, a bit more about me. I'm an entrepreneur as well. So have a solid background of corporates, multinational, about 30 to 32 years. Origin Turkish, grew up in Germany, landed back in Istanbul, and then in Geneva as an expat. Living still since then there, became Swiss, created my company there, and it's really about personal growth, personal development, education, and fostering young generation with what they need exactly at the moment, because we know one size fits all does not work. Equity is very important, which we don't provide all the time. And this year's women theme, which is going into March as of next week, is about inclusion. And this is what we would like to foster even more. When we say inclusion on all levels, that's what we would like to achieve. So coming from that, I talked a bit about myself as well. You know what? We've got time, and we would like to have this as a panel, as an interactive session. So any reactions, any feed forward, and I don't say feedback, I say feed forward because it gives us data to move forward. No, because I hate the back. Back is just, it's done, you know, it's past, finished. We are looking forward. God, you know.
Oh, so I just got it. I didn't realize what you were saying.
Feed forward. Any comments, any questions to our wonderful panel, which is really having their feet in the ground, working, contributing, and having so much experience. The floor is yours.
I'm happy to start.
That would be great, please.
I am very, very happy to see so many like-minded women around this table. We haven't heard from the men yet, so we don't know if they're like-minded or not. But maybe they can pitch in a little bit later if they agree with the points raised here. My name is Damiana Bakarjieva, and I am a senior research fellow at the Emirates Diplomatic Academy, which is just across the street. If you are around here, feel free to drop by and pay us a visit. I just recently, like last week, finished a paper that analyzes the UAE new free trade agreements and whether they're covering gender topics or not. And it's like a so-so. Yeah, there is a mention of gender in there, but maybe not enough. Maybe there's more work to be done. So as a policy advising think tank, among other things. We've sent this to the relevant ministers and tried to push the agenda forward and make sure that Dr. Sani and everybody else pays attention to all of that in the future, because we've signed 6 new free trade agreements and there's a plan for another 30 or so.
Yeah.
So if those first 6 are not doing that great, then hopefully the other 30 will be doing much better on our front. And I'm also an educator, so I teach. And bringing us back to that art discussion, I started teaching a climate diplomacy course last week. And the first session, we took our students to the Green Art Expo in Manarazze. It unfortunately closed last week, so I can't invite you to go there, but it was a lovely presentation of several artists from around the world doing art specifically commissioned on the topic of sustainability and trying to promote plastic recycling in the UAE. And so there's a lot going on here in this country related to those topics. It's lovely. You mentioned that OWIT is in many countries. I'm looking at policies in many countries. Are you present here in the UAE?
I'm looking as the president to have a footprint in Middle East. If you're happy to put your hands on that,
I am very happy
absolutely amazing.
Get my hands dirty with whatever you want.
So we're going to hook up immediately at lunch.
With pleasure.
This is how we do collaboration. You see why networking is important?
I've already beat you to that.
I know. Cookie is just a champion. Great.
With the OWIT UK and
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If I may,
Yes,
I would love to look at your findings.
Yeah,
And if I may,
They are posted online on our website. I'll share my code with you, and you can
wonderful.
download
And if I may just do a little bit of a shameless plug, we are presenting tomorrow also at the Trade Hub. So tomorrow at 3:30, we are presenting results from an European Climate Foundation work we've been developing at CISDL. Mateos from the team is also joining us today. Regarding trade and sustainability clauses and climate clauses in European Union free trade agreements. So I'm going to be covering Mercosur. We're going to have colleagues covering other economic regions, and I think it would be wonderful perhaps to integrate gender issues. And as I mentioned earlier, try and integrate the trade, climate and sustainability, and gender agendas.
That's my next topic. So we'll be looking at the sustainability in those same trade agreements as the next research project that we have on. So
we should definitely talk.
We can definitely talk.
Everyone needs to talk. So this is what happens here afterwards. Great. Thank you so much for your comment
You're
and
very
for the
welcome.
information. I will be very interested in the trade policies as well. Before we continue, maybe let's give a bit of a vibe again, a bit of spice. What about a second video, which is a wonderful business case as well? I love that one.
Just a word about that. So it's a business case of a woman-led company, so entrepreneur. She's actually a mentee from OWIT Brussels. So she has been awarded a prize with her innovation, actually. And then OWIT is a mentor to her because she's looking for more scalable solutions to go to the European market, for example. So we not only work in the trade policy and the network, but we also help those entrepreneurs to find their way. So they wanted to expand the market. So it's just talking about the innovation, but I just wanted to add that she's currently our mentee as well. It's a 5 minutes, but we can stop somewhere in between.
I mean, I was fascinated with the whole video. I mean, it's such a powerful video. It's unbelievable.
The young women are eagerly awaited, but it's no visit by neighbors or relatives. Shalom Kayinza and Lilian Amojin have an order with a customer. The two solar technicians installed a solar module here a little while ago. Now the light bulbs are flickering, probably due to the intermittent flow of electricity. They have to find out where the problem lies. The job gives them new prospects.
I've got some money from the systems that to install them. Then what has enabled us that we have really eliminated the this process of polluting the environment, the fossil fuels into the environment. So that's what has benefited us all.
Susan Matumbo also benefits from solar energy, but in a different way. The 15-year-old schoolgirl owns a backpack with an integrated mini solar panel. It can charge a lamp that helps her study at night. In turn, the lamp can load her father's cell phone.
This bag is helped me to read my books at night. You don't have electricity at home, as you see. It also helped me to share my performance. I'm going to pass my exams.
The three young women we introduced can thank Jamila Mayanja, a social entrepreneur from the Ugandan capital Kampala, for their experiences with solar energy. Mayanja herself gets involved when her employees look for plastic bags on the side of the road, as the solar backpacks are made of recycled plastic. Garbage is a big problem in Kampala.
So we try and make a difference in using these, recycling this plastic waste, and showing the community we are coming from that it's easier to recycle waste than dump them within the water system.
After the plastic bags have been cleaned, they are turned into solar backpacks with cute waterproof material on the outside. About 20 women are employed by Jamila Mayanja's foundation. They receive about $5 per backpack. Some of the backpacks are sold for more than $20, but poor women and girls can get them for free. More than 1,000 backpacks have already been sold or donated. The backpacks allow the young women to be able to discreetly bring feminine hygiene supplies to school. Many teenage girls would otherwise stay home during their periods, causing them to suffer academically.
Here to show that it's okay for you to stay in school when you're in your menstruation periods. And the blood has created that comfort, yes, increasing their performance in school. So the bag has absolutely kept our girl in school and increased their performance.
Back to Susan. She often has to do work around the house after school, and she's only allowed to study once it's dark out, which would be impossible without the solar lamp.
So Jamila would love to be here today, but she couldn't. And then she was happy to provide us with the video so we could display it.
Oh, this is so cute. Yeah, I mean, as OWIT, you rightly mentioned, it's not only trade policies, this is one arm of it. We are strongly promoting women entrepreneurs all around the world with mentorship programs. This is all free. We are non-profit, and to equip our women to do something good, and that they can really, I mean, it's moving, it's emotional, and to foster the young generation as well, because this is what it is. When we empower women, we empower a community, we empower the family, because this is what we are really, really caring for. So after this moving video, and we've got about 15 minutes left, I'm not starting with any questions, although I want to tap into the artistic part a bit. Any kind of comments or questions or anything from the audience? Yes.
I think I'll pose the question to, I've forgotten the name. Would it be possible to ask for us, like I am living in South Africa, but I'm Zimbabwean born, and I see the need for the bags. Would it be possible for her to borrow us the idea, mentor us into waste management, recycling of this bag thing? It's really...
It would be great to put you two in contact, definitely.
That's
what we do, actually.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Great question. Thank you. Thank you. So I will ask some questions to the audience, to the panelists. So I will start with Myra, because Myra, you're in this wonderful fragrance, industry, and I love vanilla and patchouli and all that. This is really great. Let me see. You mentioned that your company is doing lots of projects, and they're great projects. I heard micromanagement. Is that provided by your company, or how does it work? How do you empower and teach these women how to mitigate risk, etc.? Because there's a lot of different factors that we need to cater in, and maybe the women are not always equipped. Is it only women? Is it men as well? How does it work? A bit more detail around the project, that will be appreciated, I guess.
So yeah, on the scope is both men and women, but clearly, as I mentioned, is on all the materials report and everything, where one of the pillars really about women empowerment. So even though we are also helping the community, farmers, including also men, clearly the priority is women. Definitely, yes. We work with local partners that know more about the region, and then also sometimes we have the language barrier. So we have, like in the Indonesian case I mentioned, 2 local partners. One is pure, and another one, actually, the person have just left to work for the government instead. So, but it's local folk really trying to have the local partners to work with, because they know more how the communities also works. So it's the first thing. On the micro finance, microcredit, there are 2 ways actually in terms of financing. One is the company really investing its own funds, and in the other case is like they are also going to private funding and get it, you know, and having a third party facilitating this microcredit. So that's how also in the Madagascar case, that's the microcredit that was put in place.
Wonderful, lovely, very well done. And we need to have more corporations doing the same, really supporting farmers and local farmers, small, medium-sized ones, and also fair trade. You know, and I'm sure that your company has got that policy in place.
And that's why I mentioned local partners, but also with a third-party auditor.
Okay.
To make sure that the things are done in a proper way, you know, certified. One of the local partners is that B certification, you know, more than me. You know. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Safi, for you, a question, because you're UAE, and we've got UAE here as well. UAE, how can you describe your experience as a women entrepreneur in UAE? And what you believe would be the contribution of your firm to the future of tax and sustainability? You touched base a bit on that. I'm not going into artists at the moment. That will be maybe to Alessandra later on. But what's your experience in UAE as a women entrepreneur?
Yes, so I took the leap of faith and believed in myself to start my own business here. Some of my friends and people in entourage describe this as a very brave step. Sometimes foolish step, but I don't see it that way. I see it as a positive challenge, indeed, to build something that is focused around my core values. And my core values are creating impact in the society, whether in tax, whether in art, some 2 things that I'm very passionate about. But it's really having this ability as a sole entrepreneur to indeed spread the message. In tax, if I focus on that, well, the experience for setting up the business was very smooth. So there are a lot of bodies here that are enabled, and literally, I'm not exaggerating, it's just through an app and a few steps. Of course, it requires funding and capital, but the process is very smooth. And there is obviously no distinction between small or large business. There are a few steps that we have to follow, and it's an easy and smooth process for all. So that already is a positive achievement, because, you know, it's not a blockage or a hurdle for anyone that has an idea that wants to turn it into a company to actually do it. That's the first step. Obviously, the second step, which is the challenge, is building own self-brand or personal brand. So it may sound easy, but it's not. There are a lot of elements behind it. There is vision, there is strategy, there is actually a lot of work in terms of planning, etc. Whom will I be targeting with my tax services? Small businesses, medium businesses, large services. Then I thought large businesses already have the means to go to bigger companies and get tax advice. So I really want to focus on startups and medium-sized enterprises and offer an affordable services and be inclusive, and also support women-led businesses in the UAE to encourage the startup scene. So I did a little bit of research, and to my surprise, there was already a lot that was being done. There are a lot of funds, there are a lot of initiatives, chambers of commerce, specific commissions for women, etc., to indeed, encourage women to just take the step and start their own businesses. Now, when you start a business, it's not only about putting ourselves there, but it's also about building something that is sustainable in time. So we need obviously means to create eminence for the business, and we also need means to sustain the business on the longer term. So I was thinking, okay, what should be my vision? How can I differentiate myself from others? There already are a lot of tax firms available in the market. So obviously, how I wanted to position myself is as a woman-led business, what difference I want to create in the society. So I want to focus on sustainable tax solutions. I'm not here to just tick the box and say you completed your tax return and you are done. No, I'm here to support for your longer-term strategy. How do you want to expand your business? How do you see your business in 3-5 years from now? What can we improve, etc., to get you to that step in the near future? So that's something that not all finance or tax advisors do. There is a general tendency to be just focused on what needs to be done, because if it's not done on time, there is a penalty behind it. So I try to do things a little bit differently on that front. Obviously, on the sustainability aspects more precisely, the ESG, so environment, society, and governance, has an aspect that is linked to tax, and it's about governance. So in more advanced countries, there are specific laws about tax governance, especially, for example, for the financial sector, but also for other industries. There are specific subsidies from a tax standpoint. There are green taxes, and so on. We don't have this here yet. We just actually introduced corporate tax. It was enforced from June 2023, but it definitely is something that is on the agenda. And we have seen actually how with the COP28, the UAE has enforced a lot of programs and reached interesting commitments. So it's something to be seen.
Good. Thank you so much. In interest of time, great answer. And she really described the life cycle of a women entrepreneur. It's not easy to go through that. I did the same. Great. You mentioned green taxes. Then I immediately chip over to Reshma and then to give a 2-3 cents, from your side. And then we close off with Alessandra. And if anyone has got any questions, any feed forward or anything like that, we are going to be catched absolutely outside in the lunch area because we are tight on time. It's Swiss time here. Wow. Okay, Swiss time, is it what? Is it okay still? 7 minutes. Reshma, green tax.
I'll take 2 minutes. But I totally, reflecting on Safi, what you're saying, and of course, with Deloitte, and we're working with larger organizations, of course, like you're saying, but equally we work with SMEs as well. Having said that, in the region, there have been, since COP28, there have been various commitments made, and it really remains to be seen what will come out. Having said that, a lot of Middle East businesses have operations globally, and they are being severely impacted by various measures. And one piece of law, whether it's trade law or tax law, there's a bit of debate around it. CBAM comes to mind. There are extensive aluminium smelters here in the region. Cement, steel factories which are exporting goods to the EU are being directly impacted given the onslaught of CBAM in the EU. So it's an example of how we are working with clients who are, let's say, headquartered here in the Middle East, but have European operations. We collaborate with our EU colleagues and then help clients in that respect. So that's just one example of a global piece of legislation, how it is impacting businesses locally. So just, reflecting on that, there are various global developments affecting businesses locally, equally where you have global businesses which are based here also need to roll up and report on all of these various green regulations. And therefore, again, we're seeing a lot of movement, a lot of discussions in the finance and tax teams here in the region where, they are being impacted and needs to pick up. So, yeah, I'll pause there with my 2 minutes and then...
Thank you so much, Reshma. And then we hand over to Alessandra. And I know you're educator, you are climate lawyer and all that beautiful hats, but let's close on a creative note, shall we? What about the singer hat?
I was a late bloomer in that department, so I've been a singer-songwriter, a rock singer-songwriter for the past 15 years or so, and it's it was an interesting realization to me that the latest lyrics that I wrote ended up being lyrics about climate change in the end, because I've never written political lyrics, I've never written manifestos, and all my lyrics are pretty subjective. So these are they're typically about issues that are deep-seated in my psyche. So the fact that in hindsight, I noticed that I improvised lyrics that were precisely about a major theme in my life, I think just goes to show that we have other avenues other than the typical rational avenues that could be successfully explored to raise awareness for climate issues or gender issues or whatever issues that are dear to our hearts, really.
Lovely.
So, do you write in Portuguese or English?
English and German.
That's got nothing to do with Portuguese. What about the lyrics? Maybe two cent. I think we've got still time.
Yeah, no.
No? Okay, good. No. All right.
As I said, it's really subjective.
Okay, good.
You can look up my band afterwards if you like. It's called Loud Music.
Loud Music. Okay.
Loud Music. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
No, so just linking up to what Alessandra has mentioned and to what was the panel. So we initially were talking about governments, but actually afterwards when we developed what were the panel discussions, we thought this is interdisciplinary, and I think this is reflected here also in the panel. Yeah. And we don't see only looking to governments as the solution, also looking to other avenues, so on not only subsidies or policies, green taxes, or the trade agreements, this is all part of that, but also private sector, other fundings, how helping as well the entrepreneurs. So I think it's more striking a balanced approach, not only looking for one avenue.
Correct.
So I just wanted to mention that. Go back on that.
No, absolutely, because we can actually close on that fact that everything is holistic. We shall have a holistic view. And we shall not be operating only in silos. I tell that all the time. Everything is converging. We don't need to be completely converged, but there should be always a hotspot in between where people can interchange, exchange, collaborate, and also create something better. And this is what we wanted to actually see. Empowering climate resilience. And resilience is much more, it's so important than ever. Specifically for a young generation. They are not resilient. We need to teach them how to become resilient. Yeah? It's a different thing. Where you bounce down and bounce back again like a basketball, this is resilience. And climate change, everyone needs to have a stake. That includes me, everyone here. One little drop creates a big ocean. One clap doesn't give the noise. If we all clap, we have a noise. And that's what we need to do. All together in the same boat for a better world, for a world which is more sustainable, where we can preserve what we have at the moment as clean energy, as clean water, as reducing as much as we can carbon footprint, whatever it is, everything counts. And that's what we wanted to say as Organization Women International Trade. That's why we had a diverse panel. That's why we wanted to give all the aspects of life, because life is encompassing everything, right? Personal, professional, whatever you take. Here's the QR code for the Feed Forward session, for the Feed Forward survey. And with no further ado, lunches were served outside. We are sticking around in the lobby, so you can catch us for more collaboration, outreach, exchange, whatever you like.
Open a new chapter.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm immediately not even losing the momentum.
Do not.
Exchange research findings.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
What's weird is that in a lot of countries, the domestic...
Thank you so much. Exactly.